Ever walk into a room and feel the air shift? Conversations pause, eyes glance your way, then quickly dart off like they can't bear to rest on you for too long. You didn't say much. Maybe you just arrived, but there's a vibe, an unspoken distance that stings, leaving you wondering what went wrong. What is it about some of us that makes others keep their guard up, or worse, avoid us altogether? Is it our energy, our habits? And if so, what are those habits? We've all been there, feeling the sting of rejection, watching people drift away, or sensing that something's off in our interactions. Sometimes it's hard to put a finger on what exactly makes others pull back. Could it be something in our habits? If you've ever wondered, what am I doing wrong? This video is for you. Let's get real. The truth is, there are certain behaviors we unknowingly adopt that push people away. And they're subtle. It's not about being loud, rude, or completely abrasive. It's often the smaller, sneakier tendencies that leave an impression, one that feels a little off. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into the 6 habits that make people instantly dislike you. These are the ones that, if left unchecked, can sabotage friendships, relationships, and even your respect in professional settings. But don't worry, we'll not only uncover them, but also explore how to break free. Embracing a Stoic mindset will not only help you identify these habits, but also empower you to cultivate a more authentic presence, paving the way for deeper, more respectful interactions. 1. Talking over others, or worse, not listening. We've all met the person who hijacks conversations. The moment you start to share a story, they cut in with their own. It's as if their thoughts are too urgent, too important to wait. But here's the reality. When you speak over someone, it sends a clear message. What I have to say is more important than you. It doesn't matter if you didn't mean it that way. The perception is set. Picture this. You're catching up with a friend over coffee, and they're telling you about their new job. Instead of congratulating them, you start talking about your own work struggles. The conversation quickly turns into a monologue about your issues. What you don't realize is that your friend came to share their excitement, and by turning the focus on yourself, you've dampened their enthusiasm. It's not that they dislike you, but moments like these, when repeated, build a subtle wall between you. We all make mistakes like this from time to time, but when these habits become patterns, they create distance. It's often not about one big blow-up. It's the accumulation of small slights, the consistent disregard for others' feelings, that leads to disconnection. I remember meeting an old acquaintance at a party. We started catching up after years apart, but no matter what topic I brought up, he found a way to turn it back on himself. After 5 minutes, I wasn't engaged. I was counting down the seconds until I could walk away. His habit of talking over me made me feel invisible, like a mere audience to his personal monologue. In the realm of Stoicism, the practice of listening becomes not just a social skill, but a virtue rooted in respect and empathy. The Stoics emphasized the importance of understanding others, as it fosters harmony and connection. When you find yourself in a conversation, consider the words of Epictetus. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we say. This wisdom underscores that listening is a powerful act of humility. Imagine a scenario where you're conversing with someone who is clearly excited to share their thoughts. If you cut them off, you not only dismiss their feelings, but also reveal a lack of self-control and awareness. The Stoics would remind us that our reactions reflect our character. By interrupting, you reveal a prioritization of your ego over the shared human experience. It's not just a conversation, it's an opportunity to practice virtue. Reflecting on your own experiences, think of a time when someone truly listened to you. Recall how it made you feel, valued and understood. In contrast, how did you feel when your words were disregarded? Chances are it left you frustrated or annoyed. Now flip that. Could you be the one guilty of this? The Stoics would advocate for the latter scenario to be a moment of introspection. How often do we unknowingly play the role of the interrupter, failing to recognize the emotional landscapes of those we converse with? The antidote to this behavior is mindful listening, a practice that the Stoics championed. People gravitate towards those who make them feel heard, valued, and respected. It's not just about giving others the floor, it's about actively engaging in their stories. Nod, ask questions, and give the conversation room to breathe. Watch how the dynamic changes. Next time you find yourself in a conversation, remember that true strength lies in your ability to listen. It's not about silencing your voice. It's about recognizing the value in others' stories. Embrace the silence that allows their words to flourish, and watch how the quality of your interactions transforms. If you're still watching, please like and comment below with a sign that you've noticed in your own relationships. Your insights might help others recognize similar patterns and foster healthier connections. 2. Oversharing personal details. Too soon. There's a difference between openness and emotional dumping. While it's great to be transparent and honest, there's a time and place for deep, personal details. When you overshare early on, it can overwhelm people. It's like asking someone to carry your baggage when you've just met. They're not ready for it, and quite frankly, they didn't sign up for it. I once went on a coffee date with someone who, within the first 10 minutes, began discussing their painful childhood, relationship traumas, and financial woes. I wasn't prepared. It wasn't that I didn't care about their struggles, it was just too much, too soon. What could have been a nice introduction turned into an emotional overload. I found myself wanting to escape rather than connect. It wasn't that I lacked empathy, but I wasn't ready to dive into such deep waters without first building trust and rapport. Think about relationships like building a house. You don't throw all the materials together on day one. You start with a foundation and add layer by layer. Oversharing too soon skips that crucial step and often leaves others feeling like they've been dropped into the middle of a story they didn't ask to be part of. It can also make you seem needy or as if you're searching for sympathy, which can drive people away. In Stoicism, the principle of moderation is vital, especially when it comes to sharing personal details. The Stoics understood that while honesty and vulnerability are important, they must be balanced with wisdom and discernment. Vulnerability is powerful, but timing is everything. Reflecting on your own experiences, think of moments where you felt comfortable sharing, but then realized it was too soon. How did that impact the conversation? Perhaps you noticed the other person's body language shift, or they became more reserved. The Stoics would encourage us to pause and consider the effect of our words on others, emphasizing the importance of building trust and rapport gradually. The key to healthy vulnerability lies in timing and context. As the Stoics would advise, practice restraint. Share pieces of your story that resonate with the moment and allow the conversation to unfold naturally. This way, your openness can enhance the connection rather than risk driving others away. Remember, true intimacy is built on a foundation of mutual trust, respect, and an understanding of boundaries. 3. Being a know-it-all. There's nothing more off-putting than someone who acts like they have all the answers. You know the type. They correct every little mistake, insert themselves into conversations with unsolicited advice, or worse, belittle others' ideas. It's like they get some sort of satisfaction from proving everyone wrong or showing off their knowledge. Now, don't get me wrong, being knowledgeable isn't the problem. But when you weaponize your intelligence to belittle or one-up others, you create an environment of competition rather than connection. People start to see you as arrogant, dismissive, or just plain annoying. I once worked with a guy who had a habit of correcting everyone's grammar during meetings. Whether it was a mispronunciation or a misplaced comma, he'd chime in, "Actually, it's pronounced like this." He may have been right, but instead of feeling enlightened, the team felt like he was policing them. Meetings became tense, with people hesitant to speak up for fear of being corrected. Over time, his habit of constantly educating others became a wall between him and the team. Humility is key. No one knows everything, and that's okay. Rather than asserting your knowledge at every turn, show curiosity about others' ideas and perspectives. Let conversations be an exchange, not a competition to see who knows more. When you focus on listening rather than proving your point, people will naturally gravitate towards you. In the wisdom of Stoicism, the emphasis lies on self-awareness and recognizing that knowledge is a journey, not a destination. The Stoics believed in the importance of understanding our limitations. No one can claim to know everything. Instead of viewing knowledge as a tool to wield against others, we should see it as a means for personal growth and mutual understanding. By practicing humility and embracing our own ignorance, we can cultivate a deeper appreciation for the insights and experiences of others. Moreover, the Stoics taught that the only true control we have lies in our responses to others. Instead of correcting or belittling, we can choose to listen and engage in thoughtful dialogue. This approach fosters an atmosphere of collaboration and respect, where ideas can flourish without the threat of judgment. When we prioritize connection over competition, we not only enrich our own understanding, but also encourage others to share their knowledge openly, creating a more harmonious environment for all. Four, being negative or cynical life is tough. We all get it. But constantly voicing every complaint, every little annoyance, sucks the energy out of the room. Negativity is contagious, and no one wants to be around someone who consistently brings the vibe down. Let me share a personal story. A few years back, I was in a rough patch. Without realizing it, I started complaining more and listening less. It wasn't until a close friend pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you've been really negative lately," that I had a wake-up call. At first, I was defensive. I'm just venting. But deep down, I knew he was right. My negativity was draining those around me, and I had to make a change. Over the next few months, I made a conscious effort to focus on positive conversations and to really listen when others spoke. The difference was palpable. Not only did I feel better, but my relationships improved. People wanted to be around me again. The lesson? Small habits can have a big impact on our social lives. Picture this. You're at a dinner party, and while everyone's enjoying themselves, there's one person who keeps complaining. The food isn't great, the service is slow, the music is too loud. Sure, they might be right about some things, but their negativity poisons the atmosphere. Soon enough, people start avoiding them, eager to escape the cloud of doom they carry. Being critical or cynical makes people feel like they have to defend themselves or justify their enjoyment, which is exhausting. We gravitate toward those who lift us up, not those who pull us down. Does this mean you should fake optimism? Absolutely not. But there's a difference between acknowledging challenges and wallowing in them. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, try shifting to what's right, or, if that feels forced, simply being neutral. You'll be surprised how much lighter the air feels when you're not weighed down by complaints. In Stoicism, this focus on negativity can be seen as a failure to accept the things we cannot control. The Stoics teach that while we cannot change the circumstances that cause discomfort or frustration, we can control our reactions to them. This perspective encourages us to cultivate inner resilience and to approach challenges with a mindset of acceptance rather than complaint. Instead of wallowing in negativity, we can shift our focus to the lessons learned from difficulties, recognizing that adversity can be a catalyst for personal growth. By practicing gratitude and redirecting our thoughts toward the positive aspects of life, we not only enhance our own well-being, but also create a more uplifting environment for those around us. Ultimately, the Stoics remind us that our peace of mind is a choice, rooted in our ability to govern our thoughts and responses, rather than allowing external circumstances to dictate our emotional state. Five, being judgmental or critical of others. Imagine being around someone who constantly critiques the people around them, how they dress, their lifestyle choices, or even their small quirks. It's exhausting. When you habitually pass judgment, you not only make others uncomfortable, but you also create an environment of insecurity. People begin to wonder, are they judging me too? Once, I found myself in a conversation with a colleague who had a reputation for being overly judgmental. It was a casual chat, nothing out of the ordinary. I was recounting a funny experience from my weekend, and as I laughed, he paused, looked at me, and deadpanned, "You know, your laugh sounds a bit like a goat trying to sing opera." At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just being honest. After all, some people have quirky laughs, right? But it became increasingly clear that his critiques were less about honesty and more about some underlying need to assert his superiority. It was like he had a PhD in nitpicking. If there was an opportunity to critique, he'd seize it like a dog with a bone. Before long, I started noticing a pattern. Whether it was someone's choice of shoes or how they organized their workspace, he always found a way to insert a comment that felt like a jab. His criticisms became so predictable that they turned into a sort of game. "Let's see what he'll nitpick today," I'd think as I entered the office. It was all very amusing at first, until it wasn't. I realized I had gone from considering him an honest critic to wondering if something more sinister was brewing beneath the surface. It was annoying, like that one friend who insists on pointing out every typo in a text message. One day, after a particularly biting comment about someone's presentation style, I decided to confront him. "Do you ever notice how your words can land a bit heavy?" I asked, half-jokingly. His response, "Well, if people didn't make such foolish mistakes, I wouldn't have to point them out, would I?" That moment, ironically, his new haircut looked like a gnarled old oak tree, sturdy yet somehow completely out of place in the office setting. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about honesty. It was about him feeling better by making others feel smaller. Instead of engaging in insightful conversation, he was perfecting the art of criticism, and in doing so, he alienated everyone around him. In the end, I learned that while constructive feedback can be valuable, being judgmental only creates distance. I realized I didn't need to be around someone who thrived on criticism. So, I started to steer conversations away from him, finding joy in the laughter of colleagues who appreciated humor over harsh judgments. After all, who wants to work with someone who thinks they're a goat opera critic? Being critical distances you from others because it suggests a lack of empathy. Most people are doing their best in life, and while it's easy to find faults, it's much harder and more rewarding to seek understanding and compassion. If you find yourself quick to judge, pause and ask, "What's the full story here? What might I be missing?" This shift in perspective opens doors to connection instead of closing them with harsh judgments. From a Stoic viewpoint, The focus is on self-control and understanding that we can't control others, only our reactions to them. Instead of allowing judgment to take root, consider that everyone is on their own path, often dealing with challenges you might not see. Stoicism encourages a reflective mindset. Instead of reacting with criticism, engage in thoughtful observation. This way you can build bridges rather than walls. The path to deeper relationships lies not in judgment, but in the recognition that we all share the common experience of being human, flaws, struggles, and all. By letting go of judgment, you not only free others from scrutiny, but also liberate yourself from the constraints of negativity. The beauty of connection flourishes in an atmosphere of acceptance and understanding, where everyone feels valued for who they are, rather than who they are not. 6. Inconsistency or flakiness. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and nothing erodes trust faster than inconsistency. When you make plans and constantly cancel at the last minute, or when your actions don't align with your words, people start to view you as unreliable. And unreliability is a fast track to being disliked. Imagine you've planned a trip with a friend, and they bail on you not once, but 3 times. Each time, they promise they'll make it up to you, but they never do. Eventually, you stop believing them. You might still hang out occasionally, but deep down, you no longer trust their word. The friendship, once easy and enjoyable, becomes strained. Inconsistency shows a lack of respect for other people's time and feelings. It tells them that they're not a priority. And when someone feels unimportant, they're likely to distance themselves emotionally. To break this habit, it's simple. Be reliable. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If plans change, communicate that clearly and early. Consistency builds trust, and trust is what makes people want to stick around. From a Stoic perspective, inconsistency reflects a failure to practice self-discipline and integrity. The Stoics teach that our actions should align with our values and commitments. This alignment not only builds trust with others, but also reinforces our own sense of character. When we act inconsistently, we create internal discord, diminishing our self-respect. By committing to a path of reliability and clear communication, we honor not only our relationships, but also our personal integrity. This commitment cultivates an environment where trust can flourish, making others feel valued and important. In doing so, we create deeper connections and foster an atmosphere of mutual respect, which is essential for lasting relationships. Conclusion: a roadmap to connection. Now that we've covered the 6 habits that can make people instantly dislike you, it's important to remember that awareness is the first step toward change. The good news is that none of these behaviors are permanent. They're habits that can be broken. In Stoicism, this self-awareness aligns with the practice of examining our thoughts and actions regularly. As Marcus Aurelius advised, we should reflect daily on how we can improve ourselves and our interactions with others. The key is self-awareness and the willingness to adapt. Here's the truth: humans are social creatures. We thrive on connection, respect, and understanding. But if we're not mindful of our actions, we risk pushing people away without even realizing it. Whether it's talking over others, seeking constant validation, or being overly judgmental, each of these habits, when unchecked, can erode relationships and diminish the respect others have for us. However, by practicing mindful listening, sharing in moderation, showing empathy, and taking responsibility for our actions, we create an atmosphere where people feel valued and respected. The shift may be subtle at first, but over time it can transform your relationships, making you not only more likable, but also someone people genuinely want to be around. So, what now? It's time to reflect on these habits and consider where you might be slipping. Do you talk too much in conversations? Are you seeking too much validation from others? Recognizing where you fall short is the first step toward growth. From there, make small, consistent changes and watch how the world around you responds. In the end, it's not about being perfect. It's about being aware and striving for better interactions day by day. The respect you desire starts from within, and the relationships you build will reflect the effort you put into them. Embracing a Stoic mindset means understanding that while we cannot control how others perceive us, we can control our actions and reactions, ultimately shaping the quality of our connections and the respect we foster in our relationships.